Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of Think, Link, Create. Last week on Saturday we covered a lot of information which has obviously provoked a lot of thought, which is great, which is what I wanted to do. The idea of thinking is obviously something that many of you have now gone back and done, and I've had some great feedback. I really appreciate it. And you know, the idea of this seminar is, you know, many of you know that my profession is as a trader and an investor, and I run several websites that teach people how to trade and invest. But my real goal, actually my bigger picture, if you want to use the word, is to teach people how to think correctly so that they grow rich. And I want to talk about this book. Let me ask all of you, actually, before I start, how many of you have read Think and Grow Rich by the great author Napoleon Hill? How many of you have read this book? I'm amazed. A lot of you typing in yes. And I tend to find when we do webinars like this, there is a law of attraction at work, because the people that come to webinars like this have already got information that they know is valuable, and they're seeking to find more. That's very much how I got on this journey. And it is a journey. And I started my journey through having something very negative happen to me, and then turned it into a positive. Now, I was watching an interview, or listening to an interview, I should say, with somebody called Professor Brian Cox. How many of you have heard of Professor Brian Cox? Some of you won't, some of you will. Just type in yes or no. How many of you have heard of Professor Brian Cox? He's just written a book called The Wonders of Life. I strongly suggest you go and find it. It's a scientific book. Okay, so this is not anything to do with religion or anything at all. It's a scientific book about life. Now, Professor Brian Cox is an Englishman. He's very well known in England. He probably, if you're in America, you won't have heard of him. But it's certainly worth Googling him, because Professor Brian Cox, I'll type his name in here, has been trying to establish for many years, since he's been studying it, what human beings are. What is our purpose? Why are we here? How are we made? You know, and this is something that many human beings at the moment, especially with all this turmoil going on in the world, are asking questions. Especially after this Mayan calendar thing that happened, where everyone was in fear that the world was going to end. You probably all remember 21st of December 2012, which was actually going to be the date I released this book. In the end, I didn't actually release the book on that date because I added 2 more chapters to it. But it was very interesting how what we call the herd operate, because there are billions and billions of human beings, as we know, on the planet. And yet, what we're starting to realize is that actually our destinies are created through our thoughts. No one's yet proved the power of thought other than in many books and people experiencing it for themselves. I can tell you for a fact that by harnessing the power of positive thought, you get positive results. But you also get negative results. And I had an email from a gentleman who's been in the seminar. He said, Gavin, I've really tried to be positive. He said, your seminar uplifted me. But something happened that I can only perceive as negative. How do I deal with that? And in tonight's session, we'll talk about that. Because in my opinion, the world that we live in is a force of energy that's vibrating at billions and billions of vibrations per second, something that we can't get our heads around right now. But mixed in to that vibrational energy source is a positive and a negative, a bit like a battery. Sometimes we respond to positive vibrations. Other times we get attracted by negative vibrations. But at all points, our brains are the connection and our thoughts are the connection. Now, when I started my journey into the path of what they now call New Age thought, if that's what it is, or self-help is often what they describe these books as, I really don't like that description. I think it plays down what people who connect with something bigger and are trying to achieve. They're labeled as New Age or self-help, but they have been for centuries. Because books or any idea that's out the box or a little bit not mainstream tends to freak people out. They don't want to listen because they look at their television, they see CNN, they see CNBC, they see BBC, they see all the bad news in the world, and they're very influenced by all of that. And in fact, my mother, who I'm going to introduce you to, is here at my house in the New Forest. She's very negatively influenced. She doesn't know it because she just accepts the world as it is. But if you were to ask her how she perceives the world we live in, she'll tell you it's a terrible place. And she'll be quite happy to tell you that because she watches television all the time, and she's been doing it since she was probably 22 years old or even younger. She's been grown up on media rubbish. And so I use her as an example because actually I make fun of her about it. Well, Pamela's asking, how do you move out of that space? I've done it, but I still watch the TV. I still look at the news, but I laugh. And I don't laugh at the problems that people are having at all, because there is real suffering going on in this world. But it's been here forever, and it's probably not going to go away. But what I look at then is how can I take the news that I see and positively influence others in my life, because I can't control what is going on in Iraq or Iran because I'm not in that position. But I can control what I see, what I hear, what I think, and the people I interact with. I can choose to be with people that I like or not be around people I don't like. I have choices. God's given me choices. Now, when I use the word God, I always talk in these seminars about the higher power. But several of you who are religious had emailed me scripture from the Bible, and actually a couple of you emailed me some scripture from the Quran, which all says much the same thing about how we have the right to be happy. Now, this book by Napoleon Hill is called Think and Grow Rich, and it's an inspiration to me and to many others that have read it. And actually, there are a number of books that are over 100, 200 years old that discuss the same theories that I'm going to discuss tonight. So I'm not teaching anything particularly new, but I am teaching something that I have experienced and used in a positive way. And not just in a positive way in my business life, but in my personal life, in my family life, and in other ways. And things seem to happen to me that are lucky. And then sometimes you have something that's adverse that happened to me many years ago, which I used to deal with very badly, but now I deal with in a much more positive manner. Pamela's asking a good question. So would you stop being around your mother or just control your thoughts? Actually, what I do when I hear negative comments is I turn them into positive comments in my own mind and hopefully in the person I'm talking to. Because there are many things that we say in our minds that are negative, no, not, can't, won't, and all these negative words do actually result in negative energy. And yet the word yes is a powerful, powerful word in itself because it means we're moving forward. Just the word yes, I can, I will, all of these things inspire in us things to make us go forward. The universe that we live in does not go backwards. Human beings have a tendency to think backwards because our brains are like a giant computer that stores information. And at any point in time, as you're going to see, we can choose to think. But a lot of the time, human beings don't understand the power of the brain, so their minds chatter. It gives them lots of information. And they think they can't control it, but unfortunately, I can tell you, you can definitely control it. Okay, you have to think. And Napoleon Hill wrote in his book, Think and Grow Rich, and this is who Napoleon Hill is, by the way. He was born in 1883 and he passed away in 1970. He was an American author who was one of the earliest producers of the modern genre of personal success literature. He's widely considered to be one of the great writers on success. His most famous work, Think and Grow Rich, which was actually written in 1937, is one of the best-selling books of all time. At the time of Hill's death in 1970, Think and Grow Rich had sold 20 million copies. Now, think about that. There's a lot of people still out there that don't have access to this valuable information. In the book, Hill talked about many things that are relevant. But he also wrote another book that was only published last year. Does anyone know what that book's called? Just see if you know. He published a book. He didn't publish it in the 1930s because it was too controversial. But he actually there was a book that was published by his estate last year. Does anyone remember or know what that book is? Just see if anyone knows. No? Does no one know? That's amazing. I would have thought that you would have been aware of this. Yeah, well, he actually wrote a book called An Interview with the Devil. And it was so controversial in its time. And so, yes, a lot of people didn't know that. But, of course, if you are a police officer like me, when I was a policeman, I always search information. And you'll find if you go to Google, I mean, it's not difficult to do. Just type in an interview okay, you'll click that into Google. Okay, and then what you're going to see is you'll find a link there. So it's not even on the first page, but I'll put, if you just type in Napoleon Hill, you'll find it. And there it is in Wikipedia. Oh, sorry, it's Outwitting. I beg your pardon. There we go. So I got the name wrong there. It's Outwitting. That was it. Not an interview. It's Outwitting. There it is. And it was published by Sterling in 2011. Okay. Now, it's a very interesting concept in his book. It's not, again, it's not a religious book, but it's a book that I have read. And he talks in the book about something called drifters and non-drifters. Now, that's what I'm really going to talk about tonight. Do you drift through life, or do you have a purpose? Because I realized when I nearly lost my life several years ago, I probably didn't have much of a purpose. But the universe, the creator, made me focus. And now I have a very big purpose, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I love it. But I want you to know that you have a purpose too. You just have to find it. But thousands, millions, hundreds of millions, billions are what Napoleon Hill called drifters. And a drifter is somebody who doesn't use the power of the universe to their benefit because they don't necessarily understand the laws that govern their being. And if you're in a place right now which you don't find particularly pleasant, a number of things are happening to you at this moment that will benefit you. Number one, you're listening to information, I'm sure, that will help you. Number two, you've made a choice that you want to get this information, and you've paid for that information. So you've made a commitment, both financially, spiritually, and the fact that you're giving your time up. And the third thing is, and this is probably the most important thing, is you and I, we all realize that we are powerful beings if we know how to use our thoughts correctly. As Napoleon Hill said, what the mind of man or woman can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I've got my own take on that, as you'll see later. But it is true. We misunderstand and misrepresent our thoughts. And this causes us to drift. And many times when we drift and we're not focused, we lose sight of the bigger picture. We may turn to drugs, alcohol, antidepressants. I mean, there are thousands of things that people turn to. Crime, all sorts, because they're drifting. But the good news is this. If you're drifting and you feel you are, or even if you're not drifting, if you're focused and you want to get better, the information you'll hear tonight will show you how to focus. Guna's made a very good point there. He says we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. I believe that is a correct figure. Because we're always thinking. We can't switch off our thoughts. We have our subconscious and we have our conscious mind. Tom Williams often said to me, well, we talk about the universe, and we talk at length about this. Remember, he's 84, so he's lived a long life, and he's quite convinced. He said, Gavin, the human body is nothing more than a tool to carry around our consciousness. Now, think about that. That's pretty big, isn't it? But when we look at people like Professor Brian Cox, and we look at Albert Einstein, and we look at some of the great minds of the last 500 years, people like Napoleon Hill, indeed, and there are many others. We've started to uncover what we are and why we're here. So manifestation is something that I talked a bit about last week, but I want to just reiterate. Because when we think something and take positive action, we create something. Now, here's one of the problems. We also create things that we don't want. Because the universe is like, to me, how I've envisaged it in my mind's eye, is like a giant beacon sending out messages. And you are a receiver. And so is everyone else around you. And when you ask for something with enough intent, the universe will deliver, because it's pure energy. And miracles absolutely can happen through that. But also, if you're depressed, if you're down, if you're negative, you're sending a clear message to the universe around you that that's how you feel. And unfortunately, you get more of what you don't want. There's a saying, the better it gets, the better it gets. And it does. When you're on a roll, as I found in my life, when you're on a high and you're thinking correctly, things just seem to keep getting luckier and luckier. It's not luck, it's creative process. But my goodness me, when you're down, when you're negative, when you consistently think about all the bad things that's going on in your own life or in the world, you seem to get more of it. And it's almost like a never-ending process. You end up going to the doctor and saying, I'm depressed. What is depression? Having suffered from it myself, I know it's a thought process. And it was probably 15 years ago I went through it. I didn't have the tools given to me. I didn't have the information available to me at the time to be able to deal with it. Dennis says bad things can multiply. They definitely can. So you must always be careful of what you think, because really it is your choice about your life experience. You have more control of your life than you think you do. The higher power gave us the power of choice. So we can choose, can't we? Think about all the choices you make during your day. You can choose to get up in the morning or stay in bed. You can choose to have breakfast or not have breakfast. You can choose to go to work or to take a day off sick. You can choose not to work at all. You could be unemployed and choose not to look for a job. But you are given multiple choices throughout the day. Everything is choice. Now, is that a blessing or a curse? It's a blessing. Because with the right choices, with the right vibrational frequency, you get the right results. But unfortunately, with the wrong vibrational thoughts and the wrong vibrational frequency, you get the wrong results. That's absolutely brilliant, Gunnar. Well done. He's just telling me he went to the gym 27 out of the 31 days in January, burned 16,000 calories so far. That's absolutely brilliant. So there's someone here in this room who's made a choice, is living the choice, probably feeling a lot better for that choice, and actually deciding, I'm going to do this stuff. Brilliant. That's what this is all about. But we do have choice. Now, the law of attraction is a universal law, just like the universal law of supply and demand, cause and effect, effort versus result. I mean, these are laws that human beings are trying to understand. Now, scientifically, 100 years ago, when Wallace Wattles wrote the book The Science of Getting Rich, which I've given you all last week. There was no science behind what he was saying, so a lot of people disregarded it and said, what a load of mumbo-jumbo. Now, today, as I talk about this subject, there is a lot more science behind what I'm teaching, which gives me the comfort to do this. Now, I remember Tom Williams saying to me, when I first said I'm going to do a seminar on the law of attraction and write a book called Think, Link, Create, he was very resistant. And here's the reason why. Number one, although in his mind's eye, he knows there's something bigger out there that he's trying to understand, he hasn't read the information that I've read or seen the things that I've seen. And number two, he wasn't sure how a professional trader and an investor would come across as a teacher of New Age thinking or the law of attraction. But I can tell you, it's the best decision I have ever made in my life. Because number one, the people that have gone through the course have benefited. Number two, I've connected myself to some magnificent people that I never expected to meet by talking about this very subject. Number three, I know through my own results that yes, we have good and yes, we have bad, but if you believe in the positive, it does materialize. When a cook in America can become a doctor, why not a trader become a thought teacher? Gunnar, you're right. You're right. There's nothing stopping anything. You're right. It's all about what you believe in individually and why you want to do something. And for me, writing this next book, which has nothing to do with trading and investing, is a big branch out. But of course, it's a subject that has been made very popular by the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. So this subject is already getting a big following. And yet there are very few teachers who teach the correct way to attract through thought. So it says here, to be successful, you must at this moment decide exactly what your goal is and lay out the steps by which you intend to reach that goal. Drifters don't have goals. They don't understand goals. They just drift. They wake up every morning and they just live and drift. Napoleon Hill teaches us that those with set out goals, written plans, with written objectives, will get up in the morning and really perform because they know what their outcome is going to be, and they will get there by hook or by crook. Just like Gunnar has said here. He said, I wanted to lose X amount of weight during January. Last week he told us he was doing it, and here he is telling us I'm doing it because he's got a goal. That's a great question, Pamela. Have I studied under anyone, or did I gather all my information from books? That's a brilliant question. And no, have I had a mentor on the law of attraction? The answer is definitely no. Although I would say, had a connection in my past. It's a guy that I still work with called Paul Abens, who introduced me to this whole subject at a time that I needed it. But how I experienced this was through going through a very painful period in my life, and the information came to me at the time I needed it. And then I did begin to read books, and I did begin to see the results for myself. And as I began to see the results, I began to realize something. There's more to life than we realize. And then as I began to put into action what I actually did for myself, I thought this is only right and proper that I give this information to others through different ways of doing it. I mean, when I do my trading seminars, I teach people how the markets are manipulated. People now know that's the truth. The truth is a powerful thing. And so by doing all these things, I realize that I'm living my purpose. I'm living my dream. I'm doing what I love to do. I'm doing it from a beautiful place that I live now back in my home country of England. And I know that anyone else can have what they want and achieve what they want if they only have the belief systems in place. But it took me time. It didn't happen overnight. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. Manifestation doesn't happen immediately. If you look at somebody who's a bodybuilder, They don't build their bodies in one day. It takes them months, if not years, of very hard work to create the perfect body. If you look at a golfer, a professional golfer like Tiger Woods or some of the great golfers of our day, they didn't get out there and start hitting the ball and get to scratch in the first day. It takes time. Pamela, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. I've only read The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and I've read a lot of other books, though, by people that connected with that book. I mean, Rhonda Byrne's book was inspired by a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and that is a very good place to start. There's also another great book that I really recommend that you look at. It's a book by James Allen. Some of you may know this book, and you may go and get this from Amazon, and there's a woman's version as well. Yeah, Gunnar's already got it, but that is correct. It's As a Man Thinketh. As a Man, and there's a book called As a Woman Thinketh too. And Pamela, you might want to get that book. Now, I came across this book when I was in Australia in 2006, I think it was 2007, and I did a seminar. And I was just getting into the thought vibration process. I was just learning about the law of attraction. During the seminar, at the end of the seminar, we were sitting at the bar in this lovely hotel in Australia, and a guy called Peter, I won't say his surname, came up to me. He ran a very large business in Australia. He's a multimillionaire, and he gave me this little pamphlet, and he said, "You are a good man, Gavin. I want to give you this. Thank you so much for everything you do. You're telling the truth. You should read this book. It will be your guide for your future." And he signed it for me personally. I've still got that. And I began that night. I didn't even look at the book to start with, but that night I went to bed and I was tired, but I thought, oh, I'll read something. And As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And as I began to read, I began to look at some of the things he said. And he said, well, your life is like a garden. And actually, you can tend to that garden, nurture it, weed it, get rid of all the dead wood in the garden and make it look beautiful. Or you have a choice to treat it with nothing. Let it grow weeds, let the grass grow, and let everything get overrun. Now, if anyone's ever had a garden, you'll know that if you tend to it every day, you look after it, and you treat it well, it looks beautiful all the time because you're looking after it. But if you leave it to grow and overgrow, the weeds take over, and all the tangleweed comes in, and it's exactly right, Gunnar. It's the difference between a garden and a forest. So your life is a journey, and we're going to talk tonight about how you must remain present. We talked last week about life being like a highway. You can drive back, you can drive forward, looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to crash. Or you can stay present and enjoy every moment of what you're doing, or you can just worry about the future all the time. My mum's an expert at that, always worrying. She's a lovely lady, by the way, don't get me wrong, she's wonderful. But, you know, I always sometimes now laugh when she says, oh, the world's a terrible place. And unfortunately, she's been very, very programmed by the media. And that's something that's her choice. That is her choice, to sit and watch the negative news that's pumped through the media every day. And it does affect people. So what is purpose? When I drifted through life, and I did drift at some points, I never really had a defined purpose. I never had a written plan. I never really knew where I was going. Not probably till I was 33, 34 years old. I'd been a police officer, or I'd been in business, but did I really, really know what I wanted? And the answer was no, because I never really thought about it. Now, the law of attraction is at work whether you like it or not. You can't change it. It's a universal law. It's always at work. And it works because it is a law of the universe, a bit like gravity. So when you define a purpose in your life, you're defining some things that you would like to experience in your lifetime. Now, no one knows how long their life is. Unfortunately, scientists have yet to prove or even get an idea why some people live to 105, 110, and others do not make it past 1 year old. But we do know that throughout history, that's always been the case. We also know through records that human beings are living longer now than they've ever lived. And probably because we're creating lots of innovative things that help us to live longer. But when we look at an individual, we all, and I found this difficult, I think I'm just 1 in 7 billion people. Why am I important? What's the importance of me? And some people, many people actually, don't feel important at all. But let me explain to you something. You are massively important to the people you interact and connect with. You may not think you are, but at all points that you're interacting with people, you're interacting with their lives and you're creating something. Sometimes you're not creating. Sometimes it can be a negative interaction. Sometimes it can be very, very destructive. But at all times, there is a vibrational frequency. And Michael Logier, in his book, The Law of Attraction, another good book, by the way, I'll recommend that if you want to. It's called The Law of Attraction, and it's by Michael Logier. I'll just put that in. And in that book, he discusses the vibrational frequencies that we all attract or get connected to. And he uses a lovely analogy in an interview that I saw with him. He says if he comes across somebody that he gets a bad vibe about, he comes up with a thing in his mind. He said, well, I'm going to mind my own vibration. That's an interesting comment, and it's actually worked for me. When you come across someone very negative, someone very destructive, someone who's angry all the time, or you don't want to be around people like that because they'll drag you down into their pit, or they'll try to. Tom Williams always said to me, Gavin, life is made of winners and losers. Unfortunately, there's a lot more losers than winners, but there are winners. And those winners create their winning situation, just like Tom Williams did. He's a winner. And you only have to listen to Tom talk to know that his level of intelligence has connected him with something bigger to allow him to discuss the markets in a very knowledgeable way. So, a definite purpose. The first thing you really want to start with, we're going to do this tonight, so I suggest in part 2 you get a pen and paper, because you're going to need to write a few things down, and please do this. It'll be worth your while. Or type it into your computer, whatever you're more comfortable with. Think about, right now, get in the present moment. Don't think about the past anymore. Don't worry about tomorrow. Think about right now. What would be something that you really want to achieve? Now, I can't answer that for you because there'll be people listening to this recording. There are many of you here listening from all over the world. I know what my achievement is going to be. Think about that just for a second. Just in your mind's eye, what do you really want to achieve? What would make you feel great in the next year, 2013? Don't have to go beyond that. What would you like to achieve in the next 11 months, 2013? Now, imagine, just right this moment, you've now achieved that one dream. What would it feel like to you? How would you really feel if you just got that £10,000 pay rise or $10,000 pay rise? You just got the Porsche of your dreams. You just got in and sat in the Ferrari. Whatever it is, you've just lost £50 in 3 months. What would it feel like to you? Dennis says walking on air. Well, I'm not going to try walking on air because I know I'm going to drop Aston Martin. Yeah, okay. Hey, we are totally allowed as human beings to visualize material things. Absolutely. Don't ever feel greedy about that. Everything I've visualized in my life that's really positive has always come to be. Now, each day, it doesn't take much to spend time focusing on those things, but most people don't. Here's what they do. They get out of bed, they're busy, they're worried, they get concerned, they feel negative. Yeah? Michael Douglas says greed is good, yeah. Greed, it depends if and let me just clarify that, Gunnar. Greed is only good if it doesn't harm others. The universe responds to positive thoughts, positive desires, but it will punish those through karmic law for those that are greedy and steal or do things that they shouldn't. It will punish them. If not today, it will happen. You only have to look at Bernie Madoff. You only have to look at the guy from PFG Best, who for 20 years, both of them stole money. The universe will always, always come back with a karmic force. Yeah, it can, Doug, yeah. Greed can involve negative energy, especially in the markets. Of course it can. The way I'm going to teach you tonight to manifest what you desire is to ask for what you want, but ensure that you're working in harmony with the universe to get what you want. And if you do, by the universal law of attraction, you will get what you desire, as long as you're not trying to harm others in that process. So just take a few minutes each day. I say 15 minutes. It's all you need. And be present. And I'm going to talk about that later. Be present. That means don't think about tomorrow and don't worry about yesterday. Be in your moment. Be in your being. That's when you're at your most powerful. When your mind is here and now and not raging around worrying about things. Gunnar says, when you're making money in trading in a zero-sum game, is there another person losing? Absolutely. Life that we live, Gunnar, is a competition. That's how I see it. It's a competition. It's like playing soccer. There's always a losing team, or unless you have a draw. But certainly in baseball, there's always a losing team. I know, because I went to watch the White Sox once and watched 18 bloody innings. It was horrible. I was there till gone midnight. Because they said we can't have a loser, we can't have a draw. In baseball, someone has to lose, which was quite interesting. In America, they have to have a winner. Yep. Well, that's exactly true, Gunnar. The science of getting rich says you're right. We must live in a creative plane instead of competitiveness. I totally agree. But nevertheless, the world that we live in is full of competition. You're never going to take that away. Just look at the Olympic Games. Look at sport. There is losers, but are they really losers? Let me relate to you an interview that I heard with a Paralympian. It's an athlete who has got disabilities, who came last in their heat. They had, unfortunately, a serious disability, but were running the 100 meters. And when this person was interviewed, she said, "Today I haven't lost." She said, "I have gained everything I wanted to do. I've lived my dream. I've competed in the Paralympics, and I've finished what I needed to do for myself. And whether I came first or last was irrelevant because I did it for me and to prove to myself I could do it." And what a wonderful thought process. We must all realize that life is competitive, but actually you do create, as you said, you create a lot of the things that happen to you. So when you focus, as we want to do, most people who start this process, as I did, don't see immediate change and they get despondent. And that is something I've learned is the worst thing you can do is give up on the process. Because the process takes a bit of time. It's a bit like, I suppose I use the analogy of training a muscle to become strong. If you're going to change your thought process, it ain't going to happen overnight. It's going to take a little bit of effort on your part. Now, it's up to you to choose if you're going to make the effort. You're making the effort by being here. It took me a lot of effort, I promise you. But my goodness, am I seeing the results. And you will too. And you'll see them because it's the law of the universe to be happy if you can be. But a lot of people don't realize that that is your ability to be happy is in your control. It's not in my control. A lot of people sometimes who are negative or depressed or have problems blame others. It's called the blame game or the pity party. They live in a world of pity. I know, I've got friends who are in that place. Sometimes they get out of it. Other times they don't. Sometimes they become suicidal. Sometimes they go and take lots of depression pills. But the truth is, and I've been through that process many years ago, so I'm talking from strength here because I've done it. I've been there. And so I know what it feels like to live a pity party. And it's not that much fun. Life has got a lot to offer if you choose to take it. So when I spend my 15 minutes each day, which I do each morning, by the way, just so you know, when I wake up and I'm slumbering and I'm trying to, the alarm's gone off, it's time to get out of bed, I immediately think about all the things I want to achieve that day and all the things I'm grateful for, all the wonderful things I've got. My family, my 2 kids, or my 3 kids actually, the fact that I live in the forest. This morning I woke up, it was only 6 months ago I'd wake up, pull the blinds, and there was the Sears Tower, called something else now, but the Sears Tower. I'd look out at the Chicago financial district, and I was in the heart of the financial district. So yeah, 2 mornings ago I woke up, I thought I'd go out and get some milk from the post office. I opened the front door, there's forest all around me, and there's 4 donkeys at my gate that wouldn't let me get past. So I had to walk up and try to move the donkeys. They weren't moving, and they have the right of way in the forest. And I thought to myself, wow, what a wonderful life. So I stroked the donkeys for 20 minutes. Finally, they decided they're going to let me out the garden gate. But I was in no rush because I've made my own choice. I live on my own time because I made that choice. But the donkeys had no intention of moving. And then this morning, my mum's here with us. We woke up. I said, Mum, come and have a look out the window. Now, of course, in Chicago, we'd see the skyline. What did we see? 6 Shetland ponies. Again, right outside the gate. These are small ponies. They're only about 3.5 feet high. They're called Shetland ponies, for those of you who don't know what they are. Sitting outside my gate. Suddenly, you start to realize that it's a wonderful life. There's a film of the same subject. It is wonderful once you start to see it for what it is. So when you focus on these things, you must keep with it. You must stick with the thought. Don't, after a week, if you've been really negative for 5 years and you spend a week trying to become positive and you don't see the results immediately, don't be despondent, because it took me, for one thing to happen that really changed me, actually took several months. But when it happened, it was unbelievable. Now, I've been through some very adverse situations in my life, things that caused me pain. I used to get angry with the universe or with God or with whatever because I felt I was being punished for something I hadn't done. But looking back on all those times where I experienced adversity, it's crafted and created in me a better person. I know that sounds horrible for those of you going through adversity. You're saying, well, oh my goodness, Gavin, I've got £20,000 worth of debt. I've got £1 million worth of debt. I can't get out of this. But the trouble is, you'll keep saying can't, and you won't. The people, I'll tell you the story of Peter Jones. Peter Jones is a very successful multimillionaire businessman here in the UK. And he wrote a book called Tycoon. If you ever want to go and read it. It's a good book. He tells a story in his early 20s. He became a millionaire within a couple of years. He got very lucky, in his words, made all this money, was on a roll, didn't understand the law of attraction or anything like that, just was a money-making machine. And through bad decisions, through bad processes, he ended up losing not only all the millions that he'd built, and his Porsche and everything, he ended up owing almost as much. And he ended up living in a barn with no electricity, no gas, living on a bed with just about a cover. And he lived a pity party for a few months. But then he got up one morning and said, well, look, if I've made all these millions in the past, even though I've got nothing today, what is stopping me doing it all again with the right attitude? He's now one of the wealthiest people in England. He did it because he applied correct thought. So the person who acts with purpose and a plan attracts opportunities. How can life reward you if you have no idea what you really want yourself? How can others help you to achieve success if you've not decided how you're going to get there for yourself? Only with definiteness of purpose will you be able to overcome adversity and defeats what will stand in your way. Because there will be times when you will have something adverse happen. So you must believe in yourself. Have a strong belief in you. What you are doing now, what you want to do, and know that you can and will overcome any adversity. And you can. Because I've done it. And there are thousands of examples of people who've overcome great adversity. I mean, we just have to look at the senator in the United States who was shot. That's adversity. But she was able to get up on her feet the other day, and she had definiteness of purpose. So adversity is something that is there to help you, not hinder you, but actually you've got to move past it. Within every adversity, there is a seed of equivalent or greater benefit if you look into it, says Napoleon Hill, and thanks, Gunnar, for that. That's true. That's exactly what he said. So decide upon a definite goal. Now write down your first top goal. What would you like to achieve in the next few weeks? Now, Gunnar's already told us that his goal is weight loss. That's a perfectly good goal because it leads to health. It leads to lots of great things happening. But also, when you achieve that goal, you realize you can achieve anything because you've taken control. But others in here, write down for yourself, what is one definite goal, your main goal that you would like to achieve? It could be, I mean, one person emailed me the other day, said, Gavin, I don't want to be depressed anymore. How can I be that? This particular person was taking Prozac and had all sorts of problems. And I said, well, it's your choice to not be depressed. It's your choice. You live and you do depression. Is it a medical condition? But it's a medical condition caused by negative thought. And I'm going to show you today that, having been through that myself, a pill is not the answer. It never was. The problems that you've created just don't go away by popping a tablet. If you've got a problem, you've also got a solution. Because every time life sets you a problem to solve, it's testing you, as we're going to see. It's a bit like a test in a rising market. It's testing you. Yeah, Doug, that's a good one. I like that. He says, I can't always control what happens to me, but I can control how I react to what happens to me. Very true. Yeah. And headaches are a symptom of other causes. Yeah, actually they are. Yeah. So write down your goal. Commit that goal to the memory bank. So this is what I want to do. Now, though, you can think about a goal, but you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a life plan. You've got to have a plan to get there. David Beckham didn't become one of the best penalty takers and free kick takers in the world by just thinking about it. He practiced every day for hours. David Beckham, for those of you who don't know, is a football player in England. He is probably one of the best players, or was, in the world. And he used to be absolutely brilliant at taking what they call the free kick or the penalty. Now, the story is told that when all his teammates would leave for training, so they'd done their training session in the morning, they'd finish at 1 p.m., he'd be straight back out on the pitch at 1:30. And he would spend another 4 hours just practicing penalties and free kicks. And guess what happened to him? he became the best free kick taker in the world during his time because he had a goal to do that. He wanted to be an expert in the free kick, and he did. Gunnar used to play soccer. He said soccer in school and college. So some people don't know who David Beckham is, Gunnar. We've got people here from China and all over the place. So some people won't understand who he is, but he is a great player, or was. He's still playing. And then you've got to achieve that goal, so plan it. But of course, a plan doesn't actually turn into a result until you take what we call massive action. Massive action is energy at work. It's you doing something. Doing it, not just thinking it, doing something to get nearer to your goal. So remember, you are a creator that has been created. The Creator gave us the complete, unchallengeable right of prerogative over one thing, and only one thing, our own mind. All things are possible to the person who believes they are possible. Just look at that statement and read it and absorb it for a minute. You are a creator that has been created. Think about that. Think about the power that you have at your fingertips without knowing it. You can create all sorts of things, but you can create positive or negative. It's your choice. I knew for much of my life I went through the negative process. I had my troubles. Now I know I can create positiveness, positive energy, positive outcomes. Luck happens to people who think they're lucky. Believe you're right to create your own life, your perfect life, and it will happen. And today in part 2 we're going to talk about vision boards, how we create something. I have got a mission statement that is right in front of me. It's my mission statement. Here it is. Here it is. You can hear it. I know where I'm going. I know how I'm going to get there. And I know that the universe, the Creator, will give me that opportunity to get where I need to be. And on the journey, I'm going to connect with some great people. Give an example. There's one guy in this room. His name's Lars. Okay, and Lars has been over to the New Forest here. Came down to stay with us and stayed in a lovely hotel, or a little pub, actually. And what a great person to meet. And this was a customer who's been a customer of ours for several years, and we've always connected through different mentorship courses, and Lars is in the room. So you do meet good people through good thought. And I've always found in this business, whilst there's a lot of snake oil, there's a lot of good people too. And it's up to you to attract into your life the people that are going to help you in your journey. And you do that by being positive, helping others, knowing the rules of life, knowing that you don't harm others, you don't be greedy. Greed is good, they say, yeah, but it's only good if you're not harming other people. The universal law of attraction is at work at all times, but there is something called karmic law, or the law of karma. It's studied by many, many religious beliefs talk about karma, but it works. Now, a big question that I'm often asked then is, okay, Gavin, if with all this information, surely everyone should succeed. But you see, the thing is, not everyone gets this information. Because there's so much information around, we've got information overload at the moment through the internet. So what I've found is people are drawn to information when they need it. Like you're all in this room listening because maybe it's your time to receive this information. I know I wouldn't have been ready for this 12, 15 years ago, but 10 years ago I certainly was. And then I realized that to be successful, it's a thought process. Think and grow rich is a great statement because we've been given many gifts. And one of them is the power of thought. If we've got that gift, remember, some people don't have the gift of thought because they've got brain injury or something's happened to them. But nevertheless, for those of us that have got our faculties, we've got the gift of thought. So Dennis says, why wouldn't you take the interstate to success? Why wouldn't you? I don't know, but people don't. Gunnar, that is actually true. That's amazing to say that you're right. About 1% of the population truly understand the value and the power of thought and correct thinking. because there's not a lot of teaching. You won't see this much on television. And the reason you won't is the smart money, the big thinkers of the world, don't want everyone figuring it out. That's why Rhonda Byrne called it The Secret. It's not a secret, really. I mean, if you're clever, you can find this information on the internet anyway. I don't think it's a secret at all. In fact, there's so many books on the subject now and so much on the internet about it that you can find the information. I know I did. So I choose to take the pathway to success in everything I try to do. But it takes effort. And there is a universal law called effort versus result. If you put in the effort, you get the result. It's very, very similar to looking at a price chart. If we look at a price chart, you know, and we see the price going up and there's a lot of volume, we only have to look at the closing price to see the effort versus result. Pamela says success can be equally frightening as failure. Again, thought process. If you're frightened of anything, it's because you're thinking in a fearful manner, Pamela. Because fear is nothing more than a process of thought. It's not a real situation. Fear is a thought. Just like when you get a successful result on something, you shouldn't fear it. But you're all right. There are a lot of famous people out there who've become successful and nearly destroyed themselves. Look at Britney Spears as an example. That's a good one, yeah. Fear is exactly that. False evidence appearing real. It's a thought process. It's an inbuilt system in you. The only time that you should be fearful, and it's a good situation to be fearful, is when you have immediately life-threatening problem, like you're in the jungle, you're out on a safari, you've got out the Jeep and a lion is running at you, then you should be fearful. But most people are fearful for the wrong reasons. Let me give an example. Look at the 21st of December 2012. Look at the fiscal cliff, 31st of December 2012. Look in 2000, the millennium bug. Everyone was fearful of what was going to happen and nothing happened. It was false evidence appearing real. Every obstacle is but an illusion. Yeah, that's right, Gunnar. So remember that. A fear is nothing more than you creating a process in your own mind to become fearful about. Don't be fearful. And we're going to learn as we go through the part 2 here why fear is nothing more than something that's going to inhibit you to make a good decision. We have something called the fight-flight mechanism. It's built into every human being. It's what protects us. It's where the adrenaline surge comes in. It's where you know you're in a life or death situation. You know that if you don't do something, either fight or flee, then you are going to live or die. That is your brain giving out chemicals to tell you what you need to do. And then you get adrenaline surge, which enables you to make your decision. But you know why people get depressed and down and negative is because they think about all the negative things they're hearing. And it makes them fearful. They become worried. What is a worry? A worry is worrying about something that's not even happened yet. It's not even there in your life existence. And most of the time you'll find the things that you worry about never really materialize. It's the things that you've never thought about that cause you the problems. Worry is not a productive thought process. But it's a natural human process because people look at the news, they look at all this negative information, and it makes people feel negative. So what is a successful person? Now, I have met many, 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 many successful people. I mean, I'm not successful just in financial terms, but I've met successful sports people, I've met successful business people, successful politicians, if there is one, but I have met them. And I've met a lot of people in my travels. I remember I've traveled the world. I've been to all sorts of countries, and I've met a lot of people. And I think what makes someone successful is the following. There's a lot more to it, but these are just a few things for you to think about. They know what they want. precisely what they want. So they're quite specific in their mind about what they really want. They then have created some sort of plan, be it a vision board or a written plan, so they know what they want and they know how they're going to get it. They have a specific plan. Yep. They believe in their human ability to get what they want. They then devote a major portion of their time to get what they want. So they know that they get what they want if they put time at it. They're always grateful for what they've currently got. A lot of people are really not very grateful. And that's really sad because, yes, there are people who are struggling out there. But, you know, there are people in the world who've got nothing. One of my friends has just come back from Africa. And he explained to them that he had a toilet in his house where he would flush the chain. And one of the little students looked at him and said, "You use fresh water to flush a chain? And we don't have any?" And they were amazed. They couldn't get fresh water in this village. They couldn't get fresh water. And yet we take it for granted where we live. When we flush the chain or we go and get a glass of water, we don't think about it. When we go to the supermarket and buy food, we don't think about it. But I've travelled to some very poor areas myself. In 2010, in fact, no, it was 2011 actually, in February of last year. In fact, it was around now. You may have seen it on Facebook. I went to the homeless shelter in Chicago and I donated pizza and food and everything, and I cooked it for all the people that were homeless so I could see what people were experiencing. And I did it because A, I wanted to do something, but B, I just wanted to see and feel what it felt like to be, as they were, have nothing. But they did have one thing that I noticed. They had something to hold on to. They could be fed, and they were fed. And this particular shelter in Chicago is well known, just down near the south side. And it made me realize how grateful I should be for everything I've got. And Pamela just said there's something called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne that talks about being grateful. Be grateful for everything you have. Because what I saw for these people, they had nothing. They had no money, no clothes, only what was donated to them. My wife and I have donated several sacks of clothes to this place. There are people a lot worse off than you are, you know. And again, I try to ask the question to myself. I said, why? Why are these people in the place they are, and I'm in the place I am? And some of it is choice. I'm not saying these people, don't get me wrong, chose to be there, but circumstance took them there. And I wanted to tell all of them, but I couldn't, that there is a choice. You can get out of this. But just know that you, wherever you are, should have gratitude for what you've got. And then expect more success. Don't think of the negative. Expect to get more success. That's how we are born. We're born to attract success, but we, unfortunately, self-sabotage that. Not all of us, but people do it. I'm not saying all of us do that. It's great to have eyes to see the beauty of the world. Absolutely, Gunnar. And then we must cooperate with others. And that's one of the things about human life. We have to cooperate with others to make things happen. Gunnar says many books emphasize the power of gratitude. It's important. Today, driving through the forest, taking my children out to play at the playground and by the beach, I just looked up and just said, wow, I'm grateful. I am grateful. Okay, but I do know we've got to cooperate to make things happen. So what makes people fail? Why are there failures? And there are a lot of failures. It's sad. Well, they're drifters. In Napoleon's Hill book, he calls Outwitting the Devil, he calls these people drifters in his mind, in his description. They don't have a definite purpose. They don't think about a purpose at all. They believe success is just the result of luck. That's a nice one, Pamela. Write that down, stick it on the mirror. Pamela says, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. That's a very positive affirmation. I've seen that used many times on vision boards. It's a very positive affirmation. Because you live for the present. You're not in the past. You can't change yesterday. You can create tomorrow, but live for now. And you're absolutely right. Just keep saying that to yourself. You won't go far wrong. So the failures have no definite purpose at all. They usually believe that success is just luck, and they actually resent successful people. They move on initiative only when they're forced to do so. So they don't have initiative. They just actually, when they get a kick up the backside, they finally do something. They always find fault with everyone. You've probably met people like this. Everyone else is at fault but them. It's not their fault that they haven't got any money. The world is at fault. They're usually very closed-minded people and often self-opinionated. They're not creative, and they certainly don't have any belief systems in themselves. They're usually actually quite angry people. They have no vision, and they think the world is a bad place. They're often jealous of others' success, and they complain a lot. Now, you may know people like that. I know I do. I try to avoid them like the plague because I don't want their vibrational frequency around me or my family or anyone I'm associated with, but there are people out there who are like that. You may know. You may know people like that. Don't you be any of those things. You don't need to. Be the successful one. So remember, the universe is abundant. What do I mean by that? Okay, that's a very big statement. Well, there's a lot of thought now that, and it's being proven more and more, that you can create the energy field around you, which is seen in material things that you have. Some great positive affirmations coming here. Gunnar said, I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, wealthy, healthy, harmonious, and happy. Yeah, great one. I mean, these are good. You're all on the same wavelength in this room anyway. I'm not particularly surprised that I'm hearing those affirmation words because words are powerful. I mean, they are. They're what makes up the human being. We communicate. Our communication is threefold. Okay, we have three types of communication. We communicate with ourselves through our inner voice. We communicate externally to other human beings through our voice, through our words, through sometimes our actions. But more importantly, we communicate with the higher intelligence through our words, our actions, and our thoughts. Remember that. You communicate with the higher power when you choose to, through your words, your deeds, and your thoughts. And it happens all the time. It never switches off. Even when you're sleeping, you're communicating through your subconscious. So the universe is abundant. Most people focus on what they do not have and not on what they do have and are grateful for. You ever heard people saying, oh, I haven't got any money. Oh, it's tough at the moment. Oh, we're in a depression. Oh, it's this, it's this. Everyone makes an excuse. They focus on what they don't have. And the universe, unfortunately, hears that and gives them more of what they don't have because it thinks that's what they want. Focus on what you are grateful for now. And then think about what you really desire with as much clarity of thought and clear vision as you can. Think, link, create is all about clarity of thought. Clarity of thought comes through verbalizing or writing down or just clearly thinking about what you really, really desire. And when a negative thought comes in, you've already focused on the positive, so the negative will go away. Because the more you focus on the negative, unfortunately, the more that negative information and energy comes back to you. I believe in the next 10 years we'll make a breakthrough on this particular subject. I believe science is trying to prove it now. I believe that we're in a place where scientists are now starting to show that there is a central particle of energy that's made of all of us, and that attracts all the other things around us. So when we link to the source, what do we mean by the source? Well, we are, whether you like it or not, you are a form of energy, and you're made up of molecules and chemicals, and that's what makes a human being. Now, we have the gift of intelligence. We are the most intelligent animal on the planet. So that's why we've built and created this cities, you know, all the places we live, aircraft, we've gone to the moon, we're very creative. But there is a source of energy that's always around us at all times. We can't stop it, it's there. And that energy field has a positive charge and a negative charge. It has to have. I watched a program by somebody called Professor Stephen Hawking. How many of you have heard of Stephen Hawking? He just asked you a question. I'll type in his name. How many of you have heard of Stephen Hawking? He's a professor here in England. Anyone heard of him? Professor Stephen Hawking. Anyone heard of him? Just type in yes or no. I'd just be interested to see if you could type in. Oh, okay, okay, lots of you. Okay. He did an experiment, and he did it at the University of Cambridge to explain what he calls the Big Bang and how the universe came to be. And in that experiment, he put a load of marbles, little round marbles, white and black marbles. And on one half of the room, the marbles were white. On the other half of the room, the marbles were black, and they were all tightly packed into the room, so they couldn't move. They were all stuck together because they're all surrounding the edge, and it was a solid mass. And then what he did is he began to take one white marble and one black marble and put them in a little bowl from each side. And as he did so, guess what happened to the marbles? They began to move. And as they began to move, the more space he made, the more the marbles moved. But what happened was the white marbles began to interact with the black marbles. It was very clever to see it. And as they all moved together, he explained that this is how the universal sources of energy work, that there is a dark and a light force, and they all move together, and actually they interact with each other. And why is this relevant? Because if we're going to link to the source, there is a negative source and there's a positive source. And your brain is going to tune into which one you want to tune into. So you decide, which source do you want to tune into? If you're on the dark side, if you're having trouble at the moment, tune into the light, because it exists. It's there at all times. And once you do so, you will know where you're going. Now, what is it you desire? Everyone has different things. I know what I desire, but that's irrelevant to this conversation. I want to ask you now, you've written something down. You don't have to type it in. I don't need you to type it in. But focus in through today on your real desire. Okay? It could be all of it on the screen. That's fine. But now, close your eyes and with all your energy, ask for the thing that's going to help you the most. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how you're going to focus on this. But just while you're here, just ask. Ask the universe. Ask for it in your own mind's eye. Everyone has different ways of asking. Let me give you some examples. Some people meditate to ask. Some people pray to ask. Some people daydream to ask. But all the time, you're vibrating at a frequency, and if the universe knows that your desire is in harmony with the universe, it will give it to you. Unfortunately, there are times when you'll ask without knowing for something bad to happen, and it does happen. But as you'll see, there's always a reason for that. So here's a number of ways, and we're going to take a break in about 10 minutes. So we'll take a break because I know there's a lot of information here. But take about 15 minutes every day. Okay, now I've said this twice now. It's about the time. You don't need to spend hours on this. This is not something that you've got to spend 7 hours a day trying to master. It really isn't. But you must make a point of setting an alarm. I mean, I use an iPhone or anything. Set an alarm and say, it's my 15 minutes. It's time for me to go into a quiet place and think. Now, I am a visual person. So meditation for me, I'm not a great meditator, but I'm a great visualizer. And I visualize things and then I make them happen. It's just something I seem to be good at. So when you visualize something, see it. Now, there's many ways of seeing things. I'm going to talk in part 2 about vision boards, because they've been very helpful to a lot of the customers that, or a lot of people that I've taught have used vision boards. Meditation is a great way, if you're good at that, to calm your mind and become present. Because in order to create, you've got to think in pictures. Well, you're right, Gunnar. He says the mind is trained to think in pictures. We do. Think about when we dream. We see pictures. When you want something, you really desire something, if you close your eyes and think about it, you'll see what you want. And you might have feelings about, I've got it, I've got it. That's what the law of attraction is about. It's about creating what you want. Oh, you know, that's a strange one. I'm just about to buy a new car, Gunnar, and it's very interesting that the car that I wanted, I won't mention which one it is, I began to look at it on the internet a few weeks ago, and I began to focus on this car. I want this car. Do you know how many of these cars I've seen in the last week? I didn't see any of these vehicles for weeks because they're quite rare. I've seen 15 in 3 days. I've driven past a showroom which sells them. So you cannot see what you don't know. Well, you know, the interesting thing about the manifestation process is it is amazing that when you focus on something you want, you can see it with other people, and then you get it because you desire it. And Gunnar says he had the same thing happen to him when he got the BMW. Yeah. So when you visualize or you meditate, you only need 15 minutes each day. Find somewhere that's comfortable for you. Okay. In my case, I've got a chair in my office, which is a relaxing Swiss. It's a Swedish chair, and it's very comfortable. Focus on breathing. Now, a lot of people don't realize the power of meditation and focusing on your breathing. The first thing to do to relax your mind is to focus on your breath. I found that really weird to start with, you know, because you go, and suddenly you're present. You become present. We're going to talk about that in part 2. Now, I'm not here to teach you how to meditate, by the way, because there are many, many ways, and there are great websites out there that do it. But I strongly suggest you type into Google meditation techniques and practice a couple. You might find it very, very rewarding. Okay, and Pamela's saying Wild Divine has great tools for this. You slow the breath, you slow the thinking. Yes, you do. You stop chattering. Yeah. You've got to keep motivated to do this. So a lot of people start with it and they find it difficult because their mind is chattering to them. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. A bit like playing golf, I suppose. Once you're in a very deep state of relaxation, focus on what you really want. And I know this sounds odd, but it works. It actually works. And it works for reasons we don't yet know. And if you read scripture, for some of you that do, you'll see the same type of things, but they talk about prayer. When people pray, what do? They're calm. They're maybe in a calm place. They could be in a church or a mosque or wherever, and they're calm and they're breathing and they're asking for something. So the power of thought is very important. But as Emerson said, you've got to be enthusiastic. Nothing great is ever achieved without being enthusiastic and having an enthusiasm. Be confident. Yeah. Say to yourself, I am awesome. You are an awesome being. Think about how you're made. You are an awesome person. It doesn't matter what you think of yourself sometimes. You are awesome anyway, because of the fact that you're on this planet. Think about all the things that make you and how clever they are to make you. When you start to believe and think about how awesome you are, you'll start to project that onto other people, and they feel great being around you. That's the law of vibrational energy. If you feel great, other people feel great around you. If you believe in yourself, others believe in you too. If you are comfortable with yourself, other people will be comfortable with you too. If you're not comfortable with yourself, be comfortable with yourself, because you're a great person. And you are. Everyone is. If they choose to be. And that's the big caveat. If they choose to be. If they choose the right path on the planet, they'll get the results that they need. Okay. Is there any questions before we take a break? Fake confidence if you have to, says Gunnar. He's put a link up there to the abcofyoga.com, pranayama. Okay, so it's www.abc-of-yoga.com, and then pranayama. That's obviously, thank you, Gunnar, for sharing that. Is there any questions? Any questions at all? We've got a few more minutes here. Any comments? Any questions? Anything? I'll let you type it in. That's fine, goodness. It's good insights. Good. Well, in the next part, when we wrap up, we're going to start getting into a lot more practical exercises for you to take away. I'm just waiting for everyone to type in here. Thanks a lot. No, I appreciate that. Yes, good. We will be archiving these. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you'll get the link probably on Sunday. It's probably Monday morning, I think, because they've got to do the editing. But yes. Okay. All right. Well, let's. It's now almost 3:25. Let's come back in 15 minutes, and I'll leave the clock up here at 4 Chicago time, and then we'll be running through till about 5 p.m., 5:15 p.m. With the second part. So thanks, Dennis. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I hope I am helping you guys. And we want you to take some stuff away from this that's going to work for you. So let me stop the recording now, and we'll be back here in 15 minutes. See you then. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we've just had a quick 15-minute break there, and I hope you've all refreshed. There's a lot of information coming at you, I know. So let's move forward then and go into the next part of the session. So confidence is obviously a major part of being successful. It's also a major part of using the law of attraction, because when you're confident, good things happen. When you have doubts, anything can happen. So you need to build your own confidence. Everyone's different. Okay, everyone's different. I certainly, from my perspective, I can only tell you that my confidence for me came to a peak for me personally in 2010 at the Traders Expo in New York, when I traded live in front of several hundred traders, and obviously online there was over 1,000 people watching, and I realized I can do it. And once you know you can do something, you realize that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. You really can. You listen to some of the great sports people around the world when they talk about their how they've done well in their particular specialization, be it golf or the javelin or running, like Usain Bolt. They have this air of confidence about them. Now, I know a lot of you here are traders, because if you're on our database, you've probably been involved with the financial markets, but some of you aren't. But that's another area where you are in a competition and you're there to make money. And the confidence level that you have when you go to your charts is probably the most important part. It's just as important, in fact, as being able to read the chart correctly. Because a confident human being is confident because they've got a plan. They know what they're doing. They know their purpose. So you actually create your own confidence. Gunnar says you act as if it's impossible to fail. It's a very good one. You act as if it's impossible to fail. There's a lot of great businessmen out there. One of them is a guy called Richard Branson. How many of you have heard of Richard Branson? Yes or no? Have you heard of Richard Branson? got a great book called Losing My Virginity, because his airline is called Virgin Airlines. How many of you have heard of Richard Branson? Yeah. Okay, now Richard Branson, most people are unaware that he actually, when he started his businesses, went bust 6 times. But he always believed in his ability, and he had a vision. Sir Richard, correct, Sir Richard Branson. And this is a guy that doesn't give up. He doesn't understand the meaning of failure. It doesn't exist in his vocabulary. There is no such thing as failure in his mind, and that's why he is a Sir, Sir Richard. Because he knows that he's confident in his outcome. So confident, in fact, that he took on British Parliament last year and won. When it came to a bidding process for a train line here in England, he knew he had right on his side. He stood up for what he believed in, and he won. But the most important message out of this slide is that you are invincible. Whether you believe it or not, you are. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in the abilities you've been given, and you have to create a vision for yourself. Something that's going to help you think, and then link, and then create. The book title, Think, Link, Create, came from my original book, which was going to be called Think, Vibrate, Create. Why the word vibrate? Because vibrational energy forces are all around us. But actually, my business partner came up with the idea, Think, Link, Create, and it works nicely, doesn't it? TLC. I thought that worked very well. But the word link means that you're actually choosing to connect to the source. That's right, Gunnar. If you're not going to believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? That's true. So wherever you're at the moment in your particular world, believe in yourself. Have confidence. Have faith. In last week's session, I talked about Steve Jobs. And this is a man that I greatly admired. And Steve Jobs talked about connecting the dots. You'll probably remember that slide. And he said one of the things that got him through some of the difficult times in his life and allowed him to create some of the greatest things like the iPad, the iPod, the iPhone, as the head of that company, was he had a vision, but he had faith. He didn't fear, he had faith in his ability to be creative. And, you know, there is a classic example of how one human being can change the world. He did. And there are many human beings that have changed the world. I saw an interview here in England with Bill Gates. And these people have they definitely have purpose. You can't, you know, if you see them interviewed, they have a purpose. Bill Gates' purpose right now is actually to eradicate polio, which is a serious disease that affects some of the African countries. And he's donated millions, if not billions of dollars to solving what is a human problem. Yeah, and Edison illuminated the world with the bulb. Exactly. Yep. So have faith in something that's bigger. Have faith in the bigger picture. But know that you're very much part of that picture. And whether you're successful at the moment or whether you're struggling, you are part of that big picture. It just depends on how you see yourself in that picture. If you see yourself as a loser, a failure, you will become that. If you see yourself as a winner, wealthy, popular, happy, you will become that too. And if you're somewhere in the middle, you'll become that. So understand the power of thought. Now, when we define the word faith, what does that actually mean? Okay, because we hear about it in religious terms, we hear about it in spiritual terms, but scientifically, I suppose if there is a scientific description of faith, it's an ability to manifest your desires for the benefit of you, as number one, but other people that are connected to you. I talk about the universe in my trading plan, which is also my life plan. And I talk about connecting with my fellow brothers and sisters in a universal sense. We are all the same force of energy, whether we accept it or not. We just connect to different parts of it. But we are all in it together. Unfortunately, the world hasn't quite woken up to that reality yet, and we still have war, we still have negative stuff going on, because we're still learning. And we will continue to learn. But we must live for the moment. We must be present, because we certainly can't change what's happened in the past, because it's happened. It's there in our memory banks. We can read about it, we can see it, but we can't change it. The future, we don't know. But we do know that historically, the world that we live in has got better and better and better and better. We've massively improved our standard of living, in the Western world especially, since the 1940s. We've massively improved and eliminated many diseases in Africa through positive thinking and positive people. We've massively improved the knowledge that's available to people through the internet, which was only really 10, 12 years old, and it's just now coming to fruition. I mean, look at what we're able to do right at this moment. I'm able to communicate to you through my office upstairs in the New Forest in Hampshire to people who are in China, Australia, the USA, Sweden, all over the place. This is a major breakthrough. The human race is moving forward, not backwards. So you need to move with it. And you move with it through the choice of clarity of thought. The world is indeed a global village, and it's getting smaller. Have anyone ever heard the saying 6 degrees of separation? Have anyone ever heard of that? The 6 degrees of separation. Anybody heard of that? The 6 degrees of separation. Yeah, a lot of people said yes. Basically, there's an argument that, when things happen to us, we don't necessarily realize the power of the universe around us. What we do measure as human beings, because we can, is time. We can measure time because we look at a clock. But the universe doesn't recognize time at all. And it doesn't look at a clock. And there's been lots of studies to show that time can slow down in certain places and speed up in others. There's been many studies done on what and why causes things to happen. What has not yet been scientifically proven is whether there are other dimensions at work in the dimension that we live in. What we do definitely know is that we have our senses. And we definitely have 5 of them that we know that we have. Okay, we use our eyes, we use our ears, we use our tastes, we use smell, so we use touch. So we all acknowledge that. I was coming to that, Gunnar. What they're trying to discover at the moment is the 6th sense. And I believe that 6th sense is the law of attraction. And that's why it's become so popular. That's why I'm teaching it. Because I believe it is the 6th sense that the human being has yet to understand. I'll give you an example. You try this. If you go into a restaurant or a bar or any public area, and I don't recommend you do this, by the way, but I've seen this at work. I've seen this happen. And you catch someone's eye, or they just catch your eye. And they turn around, they're facing away from you, but you stare at them at the back of their head because you're just looking at them and you're focused on them. You watch, almost within seconds, they will turn to look back at you. There's no logic, no one's explained that yet, but they've had proven scientific tests where this happens. Now, we talked about the feeling of déjà vu last week, a feeling of being somewhere before. But your connection to the source is felt at the very base of your skull, between where your neck joins the top of your head there. So it's right at the base of your skull. Now, if you start thinking very clearly and you get clarity of thought, you will feel a tingling sensation in this area. It's very difficult to explain. It's different. The feeling's obviously different for everybody. But when you have a sensation that's linking to the sixth sense, you will feel this tingling just above the top of the spine and the base of the skull. Has anyone ever experienced that, by the way, where you've had that sensation? It's a tingling. That's the only description I can give you of it. How many of you have had that sensation where you go, oh, wow, something's happening here. You don't know what it is, but you know it's there. Okay, and most of you, a lot of you just typed in yes, by the way. Some of you may not have had it. My spider sense. Yeah. Are you Spider-Man, Doug? I didn't know that. But, yeah, that's it. It's just so you know, you are connecting to something there. Okay, don't disregard it. When you have that sensation, it's a very positive sensation usually. But also, if you feel threatened or you sense something's wrong, you'll have a similar sense, but it will give you a negative sensation. So if you feel something's wrong, if you meet someone that you don't like and you get a negative vibe, you'll definitely feel that too. So you are connecting to something with your sense, okay? So have faith that you do connect to something, a divine power of some sort. Give thanks every day. I can't stress that enough. If you want to make some positive changes in your life right now, right this minute, give thanks for what you have, but then make sure you expect some more good stuff to come. Practice gratitude. Practice being grateful. Look, sometimes when things are going wrong, it's not easy to be grateful. I understand that. And I understand because I've been there. You want to get into the pity party. And many people have many ways of getting out their pity party. They may take drugs. They may smoke. They may drink alcohol. They may do all sorts of things. But ultimately, the best way out is to be grateful for what you've got and focus positively on what you really want that's going to help you and help others. Now, we'll talk about vision board shortly. But once you've asked for something from the universe, expect to receive it and do it graciously. When it happens, be grateful. Dennis says you have to have an attitude of gratitude. You know, attitude and gratitude. It's the same thing. It is an attitude. Yeah, it's not being jealous of others. It's not being angry that other people have got money or other people have got this. It's knowing that you've got something of value. You've got you. Okay, and whatever else you've got that's part of you, it could be a family, it could be a loved one, it could be anything. Be grateful for it. So you've got to create a vision for what you want and have a mission statement to go after. Can I just ask you all before I go on here, how many of you have a mission statement that you've written down that you aim for each day? How many of you have a written mission statement? I've got mine in front of me, by the way. There it is. How many of you have got a written mission statement? Yes or no? Please do type in. I want to just get a feeling for how many of you have a written mission statement. Just type in yes or no. Okay, that's. I'm not going to say your names, don't worry, but I just want to see how many of you. I expect it to be probably 70-30, but we'll see. I'm about right. 70% said no. 30% said yes, they do. And that's pretty much, from my experience, about right. I mean, a lot of people don't have their own mission statements, and they haven't written them down. And I can only say to you this, when you finish tonight or today, because it'll be this evening for me, write down a statement about what you want, and it can include the 5 things that I'm about to ask you to write down. Hopefully you've all got a pen and paper, because I'm going to ask you to write something down in a minute. But once you write a mission statement, it's stating your desire to the universe in writing. And then keep it in your office, keep it by you or close to you. So every day you read it. And you will see, I promise, in time, you will start to get what you want. Because human beings, as we know, have senses. We're very visual, as we can see here. So visualizing something actually causes it to manifest. Not negative stuff. The universe responds much more to positive affirmation, to positive actions than it does to negative ones. It wants to respond to positive thoughts and positive vibration. The universe is made up of more positive energy than negative energy, believe it or not. So it responds much more to positive vibrational thought. So in that sense, you need to come up with mission statements that are positive. Well, that's very true, though. There is a saying, out of sight, out of mind. That's very true. That basically is exactly right. Is if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. That's very true. Very good statement. How many people have had really good friendships with people that drift off when you're not with them or you don't connect with them regularly, and you make other friends, you make new connections in new places? It happened to me when I went to Chicago. I've now re-established a lot of my old connections, but that happens a lot. You move around, you move into new connections. That's how the universe works. We are all about, by the way, connections. We're like electricity fields. That we make a connection. That connection can last a lifetime. It can actually last a few days. It can last a few minutes. It can last a few seconds. Ah, yeah, that's it. You're coming out with some good ones here, Gunnar. Seeing is believing, but you have to believe to see the unseen. Yeah. Absolutely true. So Napoleon Hill, as we know, has written a number of books, but The Purpose-Driven Life has also been a book that was written a few years ago, same subject line, and it was by a pastor, okay, who wrote the same thing, The Purpose-Driven Life. And it says here, the principle of definitiveness of purpose, the starting point of all individual achievements. Now, you think about that. Being definite of purpose, knowing what your purpose is, being purpose-driven, knowing the reason what you want to do and what you want to achieve, and how you're going to help others to achieve their own goals. Because, as I've found, if you can help other people in their own life's journey to succeed, you naturally succeed. The universe carries you along regardless. Even if at times you have your own issues, the universe will always be there for you. Because it's recognizing that you're trying to do something positive. And that is a key part, in my opinion, of why the law of attraction will always work if you use it correctly. Because it's connecting and making happen the right things to move us forward in life. So the first question I'm going to ask you is have you got a purpose? Now, don't have to answer that. You don't have to type it in. But could you now, on a piece of paper, define what you think your purpose is? And if you can't, don't worry. But if you can, that's even better. But if you've got a purpose for your life, what do you think it is? Is it to be the best chef in the world? To be the best racing driver? To be the best golfer? I don't know. I don't know what you do. Many of you do different things. But have a think about, just for a minute here, purpose. Think very carefully about what you are giving to this world that you're currently living in and what more you could give with the skills that you've learned in your past. Because we've all got skills. Now, I know what mine is. I've written about it in the trading plan that I sent you, so it's quite specific. So once you've got a purpose, you also want to materialize some of the things that are going to help you and help you to get to your goals and to move forward. Now, one of the things that's used by many people that practice the law of attraction is something called a vision board. So let me ask you, first of all, how many of you here, yes or no, currently use a vision board? Yes or no? Interesting. How many of you? Okay, so I've got 50-50 on this one, which is, again, would seem to be about right, I would say. Yeah, you can use the iPhone. You know, you can do all sorts of things. There's different ways of doing it. I'm going to show you some examples of what a vision board is. Now, there is a correct way to use a vision board. Now, a lot of people don't teach this, and they unfortunately use the vision board in the wrong way. In Michael's book, Michael Logier's book, he talks about the fact that a vision board needs to be carefully created so that you focus on what you can realistically create and not what you don't have now. So if you're putting up pictures of Ferraris and $20 million and all of that, the brain is clever. It knows what you can and can't achieve in a realistic time. And if you keep looking at the Ferrari every day and going, oh, I haven't got that, I still haven't got that, I still haven't got that, you're probably not going to get it. So you've got to use a vision board in a correct way. Now remember, you are the only one that creates your own reality. You are. You create your own reality, your own existence. But we all connect the dots. We're all part of the big picture. We're all intermingling and interacting at the same time. Remember, be present. Because the Earth is spinning round the sun at 55,000 miles an hour, and we are all on this planet, held together by gravity. But we're here and present in the moment. So live for the moment. That's important. I use a statement here, life is like a rainbow. You need both the rain and sun to make the colours appear. What does that statement mean? It means that the life you live has both good and bad situations in it. I urge you to focus on the good that you've had so that more can come. But accept there will be negative things happening. They happen to me sometimes. I try to not make them happen, but things do happen. But that's the way the universe is constructed. That's the way life in general works. That's a nice one, Gunnar, yeah. Life is measured not by the number of breaths you take, but by the number of moments that take your breath away. Yeah, there's a lot of beauty in this world, a lot of beauty, absolutely. Yeah, and it's there to be discovered. It's there to be found. And so, yes, I absolutely accept and agree that's right. But you create your reality. You definitely do, and take responsibility for that. Now, the inner vision. I can only describe to you my experience of this process. And it's a powerful thought that is connected with a positive emotional response, that is connected with a positive action that then becomes a positive outcome. I'll try to give you an example of this. The businesses that I've created, and there are several, have all come from an idea. Every single one of them, including Trade Guider. Some of the ideas have been followed on from other people's work. For instance, Trade Guider was Tom Williams's work that I connected with him and pretty much took that over. Wyckoff Analytics, which is a new company, came from an idea, from a thought, nothing more. Think, Link, Create, the book, the course that I'm doing, came from a thought. So thoughts become things. I'm doing this now. I've materialized, I've manifested this course from my experiences, both good and bad. So as Gunnar said there, thoughts do become things, and you must realize the power of the thought process. But a thought on its own doesn't really do very much. okay? Because a thought is just that, exactly that. It's something. What we now want to think and create is a manifestation of the thought. How do we do that? We take massive action on the thought. What do I mean by massive action? I mean we do something. We go out and we physically use our energy source to do something based on the power of our thought. Now, here's an interesting point. Does it always result in success? No, as I've found. Some of the things I've spent time doing have resulted in nothing, and yet others have been very, very profitable. So I've learned that the ones that didn't work taught me a lesson to help me with the ones that do work. Now, I'm quite a creative person. And so, yes, you're right, Gunnar, you know, thoughts, action equals results, and then you're followed by the gratitude of the result. That's how human beings work. That's how the universe works. It's a creative process. It is a process, rest assured. This is not magic. This is not wizardry. It's a process that is being proven scientifically. So when you have a vision, you can have a vision in many ways. Now, a vision board helps you, and I'm about to show you how you can do it, in a very simple, easy way to produce some images that reflect back on you to help you get what you want. Now, every one of you in this room and everyone listening to this recording will have different things that you want in your life right now. It could be health. It could be wealth. It could be a new car. It could be you want to be debt-free. You're sick and tired of being in debt. It could be you want a new business. You want a new job. You can take control right now, right this minute. Forget all the desperation you felt yesterday or this morning. You can take control right now. And let's say you're here and listening to this and you're already a very wealthy person, but you know that actually there's something else missing that you want to find out about. Hey, wealth is not important to you. It might be something else. It might just be the knowing more about life in general. Great. This course is going to appeal to multiple types of people. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to be silent for a few minutes. I want you to think this part is the most important part. I want you to now take your pen and paper, and I want you to write down right now, and I'll give you a few minutes to do this, so you don't have to rush. We'll take 3 or 4 minutes on this. I want you to write down 5 things that you really want that will benefit you and other people around you. You decide what it is, but I'd like you now to just take a few moments, think about it very carefully. I'm going to give you until 20 past 4, so about 4 minutes here, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I want you to write down, I want you to commit this to writing. Please do this. I'd please ask you to do this because it's part of this process. Write down 5 things that you really want. I'm not going to put time on it. Okay, and write it down and read it back to yourself. Do that now, and I'll be back with you in 3 minutes. I'm going to do the same thing as well. Okay, so we'll do that now together. And I'll be back here in 3 minutes' time. All right, everyone. Okay, so I'm back. So I've given some thought there. I've written down 5 things without really having to think too hard about it, in no particular order. Okay, and I'm not going to, there's no need for you to share any of this with us. We don't need to do that. I just want you to go, and I want you to look at that very, very carefully. Okay? So I want you to go back and just read what you've written down. Okay, go back and read it. Okay, now, let's say you were looking, I'm just going to take an example of one vision board. These are some examples, by the way, of what a vision board are. There are large boards that sit on the wall of your office or your bedroom, depending on where your wife or husband will let you have them. And, you know, there's lots of different ways of doing a vision board, but they're visual. They can be visual with words, visual with pictures. Most people that create vision boards want much the same thing, really. They want some material wealth. They might want to find a new girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife if they're divorced. They might want to just find peace and tranquility. They may want to build a family. There's many things they may want to do. Now, the wonderful thing about the internet is you can, one of the things I'd really like to have in the future, I will share this with you, is a farmhouse. Don't ask me why I want to build a farm. I have no idea, but a farmhouse. So if you do, and you just type into Google, picture of large English farmhouse, right? Just type in what you think. See what you come up with. Now, all of a sudden, look. Wow, there's some beautiful ones here, actually. Let's have a quick look here. Hope one of these is for sale. Let's have a quick look, and we just put up a picture, and you can just have a look at something that you look to. To me, that looks absolutely stunning. Okay. Now here is a picture of a beautiful country farmhouse. It's a farmhouse. It has a particular style. Now, I can search around for my ideal farmhouse, but it's going to look probably similar to that. It's going to be in a farm. It's going to have sheep wandering around. It's going to have trees around it. So I can print that image right now if I chose to, and I'm not going to do it right now, and I can add that onto the vision board. So each day I can look at what I'm desiring. Now, most people actually often will put into a vision board something like this. Because I know I've seen many of them. Okay, so they would say, right, okay, we want in my vision board, I would like a nice Bentley Turbo. That's the material thing that you're asking for. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be realistic. Now, ideally, if you're driving around in a beat-up old car and you want to jump to a Bentley Turbo, you better have a plan to get there. Because you see, the thing with the vision board is you need a plan around the vision. If we look at some of the things that people want, and you just look at some, you know, the power to change. The power to change. You already have that power. You can change instantly, tomorrow. You could change now. You have a choice. The brain is wired to habits, and it's wired to your personality, but you also have the ability to control and determine and make changes. So goodness, but he wants a Bentley, a Ferrari, a Rolls Royce, a Phantom, and an Aston Martin. Right, okay. Hey, good luck. When you get them, please email me. Send me one, will you? No, that's there's nothing wrong with. I will, you know, absolutely. I'd be more than happy if you got all of those things. But actually, what human beings thrive on is love, obviously, happiness, contributing to society as a whole, being determined. Here you can see peace, freedom, family. You can see some of the things, and this is only a small selection of vision boards. If you go to Google and type in vision boards examples, you'll find many of them. And they actually work. But remember, you don't want to focus on things that you haven't got yet, because you can bring in the feeling of not having. So focus on things that you know you can change instantly, like having love. You are a loving being. You're made of that. So that's something that you can create and give back. You can be a peaceful person. Having freedom, what does that mean? Some people's definition of freedom is different from others. My definition of freedom is knowing that I can do what I want each day in my time and in my space, because I've created the ability to run my own companies and do with my time pretty much as I please. That's a blessing. That's something that I actually chose to do. So more and more people around the world are finding that they're using vision boards. I mean, we're talking millions. This is a very popular phenomenon. And they're getting amazing results from them because they're actually connecting to the universal law of attraction. This is starting to be taught in some schools. Okay, it's not mainstream yet, but I think at some point it might be. I know that often in art school, I just went to a school here in the New Forest where my children are going to go, and in the arts class that they were doing, they were asking the kids to paint what they wanted to be when they grow up. Well, guess what? What are they creating? A vision board. But they're doing it in paint. Yeah, so financial freedom is indeed created by you. If you're tied to debt and poverty and problems and issues with money, you can unfree yourself. I've been there. Trust me. I've had debt. I've been in debt. I've had businesses that went into trouble. And I've turned them around. I've got out of it. It is something that you have to think through and be clear about. But once you've got that clarity of thought, the vision board helps you each day to focus on your true desires, your true dreams, and what you really want. And you'll be amazed at the results. But you start it tomorrow. Don't put this off. It doesn't take long. It really doesn't. With the advent of the internet, you can find all the images. Now, the images, by the way, don't have to be the exact thing that you want. It can be close. The universe knows what you want. Okay, and just rest assured you'll get what you want. Believe it. Try it for yourself. If you don't try something, you'll never know if it works. I always, when I'm teaching this to people who are closed-minded, who don't want to know, because they're already getting the results that they want anyway, whether it's good or bad, it's because they've been closed-minded. Good bodybuilders do this a lot. They put pictures of muscle men all around them in the gym, and they say, I'm going to look like that. And guess what? With the hard work and all the stuff that they do, they absolutely do. So beliefs are very powerful things. If you believe that you're going to receive something, you will get it. And actually, the universe responds much more to a positive thought followed by a belief that you're going to receive it, followed by the acceptance you will receive it. Yeah, Pamela, that's a good one. You're taught not to be attached to the exact item, but this or something better comes your way. Yeah, exactly right. It doesn't have to be the exact item, but something good will come your way. Absolutely. So keep in mind that your beliefs are very, very powerful. Now, what is a belief? I mean, there was a great email that was sent to me in 2004 by one of our customers called Rakesh Kumar. And it talked about why certain traders lack belief in their ability to make money. And therefore, they don't make money. He then talked about belief. What is a belief? Well, a belief is something that you've learned from birth and experienced and you know it to be true. For instance, if I said to you, do you believe the sun is very hot? If anyone said no, there's a problem, because most, unless you're mentally ill, 99.9% would say, of course it's hot. Because number one, when you wake up and stand in the sun and it's a really, really, really warm day, you can feel the warmth. But even in a cold day in the winter, you could still feel the warmth of the sun as I did today. So you know, you don't have to even believe it. You seem to know that that is a real statement. But if you then ask the question to someone, say, do you believe the markets are manipulated? Some people will say, absolutely not. They're not manipulated, because they don't believe it. They don't want to believe it. They don't accept it because they've got that thought process. Other people may have studied someone like Andrew Maguire, who proved it, and have read the articles and read the information. So beliefs are nothing more than what we hold to be real in our mind's eye, based on our experiences in our life. That is a belief. But also, a belief, when it comes to the law of attraction, is, do you think there is something else, the sixth sense, that you can connect to that will allow you to receive the blessings and the goodness in the universe, the things that you want to improve the life of you and others around you? Now, if your answer to that question is yes, I believe that to be true, then all of a sudden, miracles do happen. The word miracle is often used in biblical terms as to something that's most amazing, that's impossible, but there it is in front of you. But I can assure you, in my life, I've experienced several things I would only describe as miracles. And they've happened to me, so of course I believe in them, because I've experienced them. And you can too. I'll give you one example. I shared it the other week, but there's been several miracles. But the one I'll share with you was the one where I first found the law of attraction, and this is exactly what happened. I was unable to leave the United States of America because I got married, and my papers to leave the US to come and see my son in England, who then was like 7 or 8 years old, had been lost. It was actually my medical records. I'd been fighting the US government for nearly 12 months. I hadn't been able to leave the country. My son rang me up one day and said, "Daddy, don't you love me anymore? You won't come and see me." And I tried to explain to a young child what was going on. Of course, it doesn't make any sense to them. And this was where I actually read the book, The Secret. And at that moment in time, if I was to write down 5 things that I wanted, like I just asked you to do, there was only one that I wanted. It wasn't money or anything. I wanted my paperwork to leave the USA. I wanted a miracle, because I was told that I was looking at another 6 months for them to sort this mess out. That's what you're dealing with when you deal with bureaucracy. But I asked, with all the power I had, to please, please, please help me to get everything I needed to leave the USA so that I had the correct paperwork so I could get back in to see my wife. Well, it was only, nothing happened in the first 3 days, and I was very despondent. I began to lose, well, I hate to say the word lose faith, but I did. I thought, what a load of rubbish. But I kept sticking with the belief system. I said, listen, there is something here, and I felt something. And on the 4th day, or 4th or 5th day, I forget exactly when, I came back and opened my post box, and there was massive amounts of post there. And as I pulled it all out, several letters dropped on the floor, and stamped on the top was US government. So I knew it was government letters. I opened the first letter, and there indeed was my permit to leave the country, so I could immediately fly out the next day and see my son. The second letter I opened was an extension on that permit. The third letter I opened was a letter saying you've got an appointment for your green card in a couple of weeks' time, and the fourth letter said your green card will be a 20-year, not a 10-year card. When I rang the US government to find out what had happened, they went to their computer system and said, we cannot explain how you've got those letters, because we still haven't got your medical records, but you have got them. We acknowledge that, and they're legal documents. You can leave. And then the final piece of the jigsaw came when I went for the green card interview. This was the bit that made me really laugh, because I sat in front of the immigration officer, and she said, listen, she said, it was right at the end. It was a Friday evening. I'll never forget it. She wanted to get home. And I'd gone for the interview thinking it was a standard thing, and she said, well, she said, I'm still confused. She said, we don't have a copy of your medical records. I said, but you must have, because you've issued me with this piece of paper to allow me to leave the country. She said, well, I can't explain that. She said, but I can't issue you with your green card because without that medical, you've got to go back and go through the whole process again. It's another $900. And she said, it's now, nearly 5 o'clock. We're about to close. So, I sat there and looked at her and went, this can't be. I said, can I ask you to do me one more favor? I said, please, 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 go and check the file again. Because I said, here is a document showing that FedEx delivered those medical records and they were signed for in Washington. Well, here's where the miracle came in. She was gone for 5 minutes, and now these people don't work overtime, trust me. She wanted to get out. It was Friday. She came running back in with a big smile on her face. She said, Mr. Holmes, she shook my hand, welcome to America. I'm issuing you your 20-year green card right now. And she signed the document. And I looked at her, my wife looked at her and said, well, what just changed? She said, well, you told me to go back and look carefully at the file. You said the word carefully. She said, I hate to tell you, she said, but for all this year that you've been going through this and going through all these letters, the security guard that opened your medical records stuck them in between the back of the file and the piece of paper at the back. They've been sandwiched there for a whole year. And she said, I just found them. Welcome to America, Mr. Holmes. That was a miracle. And it was incredible because it all happened within a few weeks of me asking for that to happen. And I now have a 20-year green card for the United States of America. So, and that moment, and there are other moments in my near-death experience. In my near-death experience, I was saved by my dog, which I'm not going to explain, but the dog saved me. And things like that to me made me begin to ask questions. Now, what happens when things go wrong? What happens when it doesn't go right? What happens when you're in a frustrating situation? You tend to get angry. You tend to get emotional. You tend to lose clarity of thought. Okay? But I learned something. You're not the victim here. You're just the creator. And you don't realize sometimes that all the negative energy will cling to you like a magnet if you're negative enough. You are a magnet. You are a giant magnet. And the way I imagine a human being is like a magnet with an antenna on the top. You give out vibrational energy and you also receive it. But you control the magnet with your mind. Your mind is a magnet, whether you like it or not. A human being is a magnet. It attracts certain frequencies, certain energy. It also has the ability to repulse, the law of repulsion, where you don't get what you want. So remember, you're not the victim of anything when you have bad luck and things don't go right for you. It's something that's been created there for you, and often it's a lesson. Now, what I learned is there will be some future benefit. If you're going through some adversity, you must treat it as exactly that. Not a big problem, but a challenge to be resolved. So whether you've got debt, whether you've got health issues, whatever it is that you're going through right now, it's a challenge for you to resolve with the power of universal law. And you have the ability, I promise you. You absolutely have this in your fingertips. I'm no different to any of you. We're all human beings. We have abilities. Some people have greater ability than others. Some people drift. Some people focus. Life will keep bringing you the same test over and over again until you pass it. And it does. It is a test. I always think that life's a bit like a chart. You know, when you chart the market, it's very important to control the inner voice, the little thing that talks to you. Now, everyone's got the inner voice. We all know what it is. It's us talking. And every single moment when we're conscious, we're probably thinking and talking to ourselves, especially when we're not talking to someone else. You go and sit in a corner, or go and sit on the beach, as I did today, your little voice will be talking to you. Sometimes it's very positive. It's very encouraging to you. Sometimes it's a downright pain. It's negative. It makes you angry. You get angry with other people. You get frustrated. You get emotional. You get depressed. Yeah, 80% of communication is self-talk. Yeah. Yeah, Gunnar, very good. It says challenges or problems are challenges that teaches us lessons if you're open-minded and willing to learn. That's the whole key to it. The inner voice is something that most people drift and don't understand. They act on impulse. They don't think with clarity. Often, these people create their own problems and blame others. Napoleon Hill, read that book, Outwitting the Devil. Very good book. What I loved about the book was he doesn't suggest there's such thing as the devil at all. He suggests in the book that, well, actually he does, but he thinks in his book that the devil is nothing more than misthinking. That's his description of it. And it's actually very clever, the way he talks about that. So controlling your inner mind and your inner voice is the key to using the law of attraction successfully. The vision board helps you use positive thoughts and positive affirmations. Try tomorrow morning to do something for me. When you wake up, whatever time you wake up, I want you to think about what I'm telling you here now and say, first thing you're going to do is be grateful. Just spend a few minutes before you get out of bed being grateful for whatever you've got, whatever that is. And then, when you lift your legs out and you put your 2 feet on the ground, just look up and say thank you. All you need to do. Say thank you. And then, in your mind's eye, just say, this is going to be a great day. Some great things are going to happen today. It's going to be the perfect day. I am going to start this day the perfect way. I am going to have a great day. With a spring in your step, go off and do your ablutions and go and get your cup of tea or coffee and see what happens. See how it feels. Remember, always talk to yourself in a positive way, just like you would like to be talked to by other people. Like if your boss talks to you, you don't want the boss having a go at you. You want them to talk to you positively, to make you feel good about yourself. When you're talking to yourself, if you're talking to yourself in a negative way, you're going to create negative vibrational energy. That's just the way it works. So use positive. These are some of the things I say to myself all the time. Before I go into trading competitions, before anything, I always know that I can. I will. I'm a winner. Yes, it's possible. Absolutely, it's possible. Yes, great word. I am sure. Definitely. I'm confident that we can do that. What's happening? All those words are creating something positive. They're creating an energy field around you that is positive. They're creating something that says to you, you are a winner. You are confident. You are part of the creative process. You've linked to it, and now you can create because you've thought through the process. And this is how it works. There is no excuse to not have clarity of thought because it doesn't take much to do. I'm not asking you to go and climb Mount Everest. I'm not asking you to learn a new skill that's going to take 10 years to learn. 15 minutes a day of positive thought with some positive, clear thoughts. Anyone can do that. But until you yourself see the reaction to that from the universe, you won't know until you see 1 or 2 things happening to you that are positive. Remain present. This is the bit I found the most difficult. We are present. That means we're here now. Don't dwell on the past, okay? Because you will have things in the past that you will probably regret. I know I do. You've got to let them pass. I've got one very big regret in my life, but I've had to let it go. And you have to let these things go because otherwise they eat you up. If you keep looking at things that happened in your past, even if they're painful, If you look at them and keep thinking about them in your mind's eye, they won't go away. You're driving the car looking through the rear view mirror, you're going to keep crashing. You've got to let them pass. Worrying about a problem, I say perceived or real, doesn't solve it. Taking action in a positive way solves the problem. Worrying has never solved any problems. It's the most negative of all the negative emotions, worry. If a problem's there, find a solution. Don't worry. Remember, I say perceived problem, or even a real problem in your own mind. It's there to teach you something, so learn from it and move on. Never say you can't. Never say you can't, because you can if you really desire it. The word can't doesn't exist. So don't say can't. I know it's difficult to say. It's part of the vocabulary. You're going to have to try to move forward. I mean, certain things is, if I say, can you go to the moon? You say, no, you can't. Well, you've said you're never going to go to the moon. But in 15 years' time, it's very likely that we'll have rockets going to the moon for the public. So never say can't. You don't know. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment you're in, whatever it may be, whether it's with your family, your friends, your loved one, whether you're in the forest, by the sea, and you're looking at the stars, you're in the sunshine. Be calm. Enjoy it. Remain calm. With calm thoughts come clarity. Focus always on a positive outcome to your situation, because it will be there, always. Remember, you can always hit the reset button. So if you're feeling really negative and depressed now, at the end of the seminar, you can just press the reset button and get on your way to being positive. There's nothing stopping you other than you. You are the strong link or the weak link. It's your choice. It's not mine. It's no one else's. It's you. You are in control. Remember that. So take control. You can and you will overcome any adversity if you believe you can do it. Believe and you will overcome that adversity. Now, you will get negative thoughts. People do. Everyone does. I do. Everyone does. Okay? You get things. Look at Tiger Woods. There's a guy that had everything. And in a space of a few months, through bad decision-making, pretty much lost a lot of the things he gained. But he's building his life back, which is great. Everyone has, even the best top people in the world, experience negative forces. It's the way the universe is. We can't change that. So we must accept it. We must deal with it. We must be responsible with it. If we do that, then we're all going to be better human beings and enjoy the life that we're given. How many of you, can I ask, have heard or read of this book? How many of you have heard or read of the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle? Can I highly recommend that you read the book? It's very spiritual, okay? It's very in-depth. It's a bit deep. I've got it as an audio book. This particular gentleman was close to suicide, and he wrote about the power of being present. It is a New York Times #1 bestseller. And the reason it is because it's a very good book. It's a book about being present, enjoying the moment, just as I'm enjoying this moment, thoroughly enjoying it, loving what I'm doing, feeling blessed about being here, being in the presence of some great people all around the world. What a better way to spend a Saturday night? So the power of now teaches us to be present, but it also teaches us that we do have negative thoughts. So how do we deal with those? Now that's probably the very important part of this next slide. If you here in this room are having negative thoughts and you're finding them difficult to deal with, these few slides will help you. Negative thoughts arise because of our preoccupation with the past and the future. When we are obsessed with the future, we feel anxiety, stress, and unease. While thinking about the past negatively causes us to feel guilty or resentful. All of us often feel anxious about the future because the media ensure that happens. It's part of their remit. They don't want to give you good news. There's a logical reason for that. Okay, because the smart money, the very powerful people in the world, totally understand how the human being ticks. If you want a big government to look after you, the government has to keep pumping out bad news to make you feel that you need them to protect you. That's why the media pumps out negative news and not positive news. You will not see a lot of good news on the TV. You will see lots of news about war, about shootings, about bombings, about everything that makes you feel insecure in your individual life. But rest assured, it's there and done for a reason. They will never report how many people were born during a day and say, today we got some great news. There were 20,000 births in America today. What a wonderful life. You never hear that. They will never tell you on the news. Ever. We're delighted to say, here it is, it's Gavin Holmes here at CNN. 90% of Americans are gainfully employed. You'll never hear that. You'll always hear about the unemployed people and that it's getting worse. You will never hear good news. That's the way it's meant to be. You, however, have a choice. You can listen to that news and say, as my mum says, isn't the world terrible? She's downstairs now watching CNN. And she's, oh, Gavin, world's a mess. Oh, dear. And there are millions of my mums out there who will tell you that the world is a mess. The world is perfect. It's always been this way. It's what you make it. You create the world you live in through your eyes and what you see. Do bad things happen? Yes. But for every bad thing, there's multiple good things, but you will never see them on the news. Never. You won't hear about Bill Gates. I saw him on TV the other day. I didn't even know he'd done this, generating billions of dollars for polio. Finally, it was actually on the BBC, but not on the news. It was on a documentary. So ultimately, both the future and the past exist completely in our mind as images or projections. They have no reality beyond the images running through our mind. The past cannot be relived and the future never comes. Only the present moment really has reality. Now, when I read that statement, which is an interesting one, we do plan the future in our minds, but we don't often get exactly what we expect. So we live for the moment. That's all you can live for, is live for the moment and enjoy it, embrace it. Exactly, Gunnar. Our subconscious is very influenced by what we see, read, experience, and the people we interact with. Absolutely. If you rest your attention in the present moment, you will see that there are no problems in the now. Any thought of a problem is always pertaining to either the past or the future. When you are deeply attuned to the present moment awareness, the mind stops churning out thoughts and focuses on dealing with just the now. I mentioned this earlier. If you want to just become present, and you can do this when we finish here in a few minutes, just take a few minutes to focus on your breathing. Don't try to control it. Just put your attention on it. Okay, so just focus on your breath and remain that way for a minute or two. When you place your attention on your breath, you are no longer occupied in the mind and you become aware of the present moment. I want you all to try that when we finish, just for a few minutes. Just be present. Don't worry about yesterday and don't think about tomorrow. Just be present and feel blessed. And surely you will be blessed because you're present. You know, you can look around and you use your eyes. Look at some of the objects that are in your surrounding. Don't put a label on them. Just know they're there. They're in your vicinity, just as they are with me in my office. Listen to any sounds. I live in the forest. I have an owl outside the window that tweets and twews during the night. When I wake up in the morning, there's a pigeon that sits there and wakes me up. It's my alarm clock. Then I know I'm blessed. And wow, what a great place to live. And then when you hear those noises, try to listen to something that maybe isn't there. When I first moved to the New Forest back in October, the most difficult part for me was the lack of noise. Remember, I came from downtown Chicago, where I lived for nearly 12 years. There's constant noise. There's the noise of people. There's the noise of fire engines, ambulances, and police cars. All through the night, I managed to always sleep with the comfort of knowing there's noise. The first night I moved to the forest, I opened the window, went to try to go to sleep, and there was nothing. There was no noise. It was the most amazing experience. It was at first a bit eerie, actually, but I've got used to it. But it was the most amazing thing. I was there in my place, in my time, and there was not a sound. And as I was drifting off to sleep, suddenly an owl went, "Twit-woo!" And I nearly jumped out of bed. I thought it was a ghost or something. But it was amazing, because I hadn't heard anything for a couple of hours. And I'm used to hearing all this noise. And I began to realize how important it was to be at peace with yourself sometimes. And you need that time of day. And sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's in the morning. It can be during the day, depending on whether you're working. But take some time to be with yourself. Feel the sensation of touch. Take anything, a piece of clothing, something, my daughter loves her teddy bear, and just hold on to something. I've got my dressing gown, and, that's something when I wear it, I know it makes me feel very comfortable. Just be aware of it. If you're eating or drinking or anything, just for the moment that you're in, enjoy it. Just think, well, this is really good. You don't have to think about yesterday or what happened today. Just think about the now. It's an amazing experience, and it will give you clarity. If you like walking, as I do, and I like walking through the forest, you start to become aware as you take each step of some of the things around you. And think of the wonder of Mother Nature. It's incredible. It really is. And negative people don't do this. They tend to lock themselves in their apartment or their flat or their house. They watch the television. They generally feel sorry for themselves. But the idea of dealing with a negative sensation is to drag your attention away from the mind and place it in the present. When you do this, you'll feel your own presence deeply. The purity of your presence is very powerful, and it has the capacity then for the right action, and the right action leads to the right results. Obsessive, negative thoughts have a habit of repeating themselves. It's like a tape recorder rewinding itself again and again. Such patterns are created because you're unconsciously living in the mind, and there is no presence in your life. Initially, it may be difficult to stay present just for a few seconds, but with practice, you can become more and more aware. When you stop investing attention in your mind, you will see life unfold beautifully. You will stop thinking negatively because you are not dwelling, or no longer dwelling in your mind. Living in the now is like walking the narrow space between the past and the future. All it requires is your presence. It's a powerful shift in consciousness. You will notice how life starts working for you rather than against you when you stay in the present constantly. So be present. Stop worrying. You have to make a choice on whether you want to go through life in an insane manner or in a sane manner. Life is always asking you to make this one choice. Your negative thinking is nothing but a resistance to life itself. The only way to drop it is by bringing negative thought patterns to the light of your presence and scrutiny. Then you realize there is no truth to them to start with. So now's the time. Now is the time to start creating the perfect life. Why not now? The power of now is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not next week or next month. It's now. It's today. It's knowing that you hold the key. You. Not Gavin Holmes. You. All you're receiving is information that clearly you must be ready for. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. Some people are not ready for this information. Many of them are drifting. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Bob. I spotted that too. But you are creating your life. And it's now is the time to start. And there we go. And I know that Gunnar put that statement up earlier. But it's important to enjoy moments that take your breath away, because life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. And there have been many in my life where you just go, wow. And there'll be many in yours as you move forward to start looking and seeking. But that's what this seminar is all about. And that's what my book, which I hope will be out in April, will teach similar messages. That we have an inherent ability to be happy if we choose to be. We have and have been given by the Creator gifts that we unlock because we've been given the gift of choice. We have, as individuals, the chance to help others create lives that are perfect too. But we must live in the present moment. We must enjoy the present moment, and we must always realize that, yes, it's important to plan for the future, but planning is important, and it's very important, but we mustn't live in the future and worry about it. We must enjoy the moment that we're in. So, be happy. That's it. Be happy in your moment. You choose happiness. It's up to you. You can choose to be miserable, or you can choose to be happy. I know it's a choice because I've made it. I have suffered from depression. I have been through debt problems. I have been through a crisis in my life. I have had a near-death experience. I have been through all the things I'm teaching you now. So I feel confident that I'm qualified to show you this information because I'm using it to better my life. In a recent article in an American newspaper, they talked about me living the American dream. I'm living the dream. I'm doing what I love to do. And if I can do it, and I'm just an ex-police officer, anyone can do it. I'm nothing special. I just got some information that helped me. And I realized that it's important to share this with other people. And for you to apply the information to you. You apply this information to you and your individual requirements. Because you are an individual. We're all, by our DNA, unique. We're human beings. We're made of the same stuff. But we have this footprint that makes us unique. So be happy. You can be happy. It's your choice. It's your right, actually. It's your birthright. Yeah, and it's really important to keep that in your mind. You were born to be happy, so don't put it off. Okay, don't put it off. Focus on the present moment. Focus on the now. If you want to know more about that book by Eckhart Tolle is an excellent book for talking about focusing on the now. But the now is right now. You are in your moment now. And I want you to go away and learn some of the things we've taught here. But remember, being positive is a choice. It's a choice. Being negative is also a choice. It's your choice. You decide. Which life do you want to live? A life of freedom, happiness, openness, where you're creating wonderful things around you, getting all the things you desire because you've asked for them? Or do you want to stay negative and be angry with the world and say it's a terrible place and watch CNN every day? That's up to you. I've always said you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. But the very fact that you're here means you were ready for this information. The fact that you've spent time to listen, to learn, will benefit you. What you take away from this will be individual. But I can assure you, having been through life's adversity, having had my fair share of issues, and having come out of them on the other side, and really just living a wonderful life with lots of opportunities knocking on the door, they just keep coming. It is a wonderful life. It is a wonderful place to be on this planet, and we have a creator, a higher power that always looks over us if we choose to ask for that. So finally, a word for the wise, which you all now are, I hope. Wherever you are right now in life's journey, remember that you're in control if you choose to be. Life is like a price of a stock. It goes up, down. sideways, and it can boom and bust. Life is a cycle, and when you find things are tough, have faith. You hold the key, so persevere. When everything's going well, be grateful and expect more. Miracles can happen. Dreams most definitely do come true, and they certainly have for me. You're creating your life, everyone. Enjoy it. I hope that I've helped you in this seminar. I want to say, if you're religious, God bless you. If you're not, well, bless you anyway. And I hope that for all of you that have attended, that you've learned something here that will help you. I hope you become, if you're a trader, a better trader. You must believe in that. And I want you to know that, you know, we will put these recordings up so you can go back and look at them, and we'll send you the slides as well. That should be up by Monday. If there's anything I can do, if you've got any questions at all, my email is gavinh@tradeguider.com, which I'll put up here. I'll just type it in, and I've got a lot of emails from you as well, so thank you for that. And it just remains for me to say, have a great rest of your weekend, and I wish you lots of success in whatever you do in life, and I hope to see you again soon in one of my seminars. You take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
The organizer has